Thank you very much for coming this afternoon. It's my great pleasure to introduce three of our Manufacturing Council representatives that are here to join us today. In no particular order, we're just kind of going off the fly here. Greg Jarecke is from Case New Holland and Grand Island, and he'll talk a little bit about their company, their current needs. Jack Schreiner is here from Bruckman Rubber in Hastings. Again, he'll talk about their needs, some of their challenges. And Dave Arnold from Royal Engineered Composites in Minden is also here to talk. So what we'd like to do is go through each of the panelists, let them kind of talk about their companies, their needs, some of their strengths, and then open it up for questions at the very end. So thank you.
While he's getting that set up, I'd like to thank all of you for coming in today and listening to a little bit of what we have to say about what we're seeing out in the industries as far as needs for the workforce. And hopefully you can help steer some of these kids in the right direction to give them a really nice job when they get out of school. My message today is kind of this. There's some really cool companies in Nebraska and everywhere that do some pretty amazing things. The root of a lot of that these days is technology, and we see that in all areas. I'm amazed. In one example I've used before, there's actually a commercial laundry facility in Minden for like uniforms and floor mats and things like that. They use RFID tags and technology tracking to track all their garments and everything through that system. Something that you would think would be very kind of low tech is actually very high tech, so that they can compete in the markets that are out there today that are very cheap labor. So technology is what's driving the U.S. and the industry in the United States, the growth of manufacturing, because it can offset the low cost of labor in places like China and India and Africa. There's a really bright future for kids that want to get involved in this and use that technology to help us all do that. There's really good jobs out there. A lot of them don't take a lot of time commitment and money on the front end as far as education to get involved in, and you can convert that into a really good career path. And the future of, like I said, the future of the United States is really being able to harness this technology to bring the ability back into this country to build things and sell things and distribute them out to the rest of the world. So go ahead and flip side. A little bit about Royal Engineered Composites. We were started in 1949, have been in Minden pretty much since then, and we do composites for the aerospace industry. So we're carbon fiber, fiberglass, epoxy resins, other resin systems. We build components for all the major aerospace companies in the United States, and actually we're working on the world in that capacity as well. We do about half and half defense, commercial, and we got about 135, 140 employees right now. We've been growing steadily throughout the years at about 15%. So we're continuing to add, build, develop, and apply some of this technology and hire people. Go ahead and hit the next slide. A little bit about me. I'm a product of the state of Nebraska's education system from start to finish. I grew up in Falls City and went to school, got an engineering degree and then an MBA, and I'm currently vice president down at Royal. Next slide. So here's just some visuals of some of the stuff that we do. We use machines, computer programmed machines. We use lasers to project areas where we need things done. We're working on a paperless shop floor work instruction system that you actually use a tablet for all the operators on the shop floor to get their work instructions. But it's very much technology driven, very much technology integrated. We use ultrasonic inspection, which is kind of like the ultrasounds that you get if you go to the doctor's office. If you're familiar with welding, they do a non-destructive and testing a lot on welds. We use that technology. CMM inspection, which is computerized inspection systems, laser scanning, laser tracking, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's very much a technology-driven environment. Next slide. But it also doesn't have the volume of companies like the automotive industry either. So it takes some craftsmanship. It takes people that are good with their hands and their minds to be able to do some of this stuff. So it's a unique blend. It's not an assembly line where you stand there and just do the one thing right after the other. This is something that we need operators that are good with their hands, can think about things, supply feedback on how to improve things. So they're thinking with their head, they're engaged, and coming up with better solutions to some of the problems that we have. Next slide. Here's our customer list. A lot of them you probably recognize: helicopter, aircraft, engines. Like I said, United States and the rest of the world. Just some. We'll run through these pretty quick. I mean, there's some programs that we're on and some of the components. You can see some duct work for the cooling inside of an aircraft. There's a lot of electronics, and if you've ever been on one that's sitting on a tarmac somewhere, they get warm, so there's a lot of air conditioning, ducting go on inside of those. Exterior panels for wings and things like that, we make those as well. Next slide. More fairings and wings for the F-18. Next slide. V-22 is one of our big programs for Bell. Again, exterior wing panels, carbon fiber. Next slide. Engine components. So we make part of the braking system when you land. It's actually the thrust reverser of the engine that reverses the thrust and helps land the airplane, coast it to a stop when it lands. We make those internal engine components. Next slide. So this is kind of the technical skill set that we're looking for in the people that we're looking to hire. Right now, I'd say most of those we have openings for. One of the big ones for us right now is CNC machining and programming. That's huge. IT, information technology, we're continuing to onboard some of those. And then engineering, quality engineers, any of those kind of CAD technicians. There's a huge. What's amazing to me is CAD used to be something that somebody just went and drew stuff up on a computer, but we've been able to take CAD technicians and apply them in all kinds of things. They're working with the CMM stuff. They're working with the engineers. They actually work to lay out our ply templates and laser projection files and things like that. So it's one of those base degree. I'd say it's one of those base skills anymore that if you're good with CAD, you can apply that in a lot of different areas. Next slide. So if you're contemplating the future, here's kind of what I see when I look out there right now. If I were coming out of high school, you know, there's a high level of unemployment in the industry, which means people are getting jobs where they're obviously more skilled than what the job is doing for them. There's a lot of people getting jobs that can't afford to repay their student loans because the job they're underemployed. They may go get a 4-year degree, but they're doing something that's not utilizing that degree. If you've looked at a private student loan interest rate lately, as cheap as interest is these days, student loan interest is amazingly high, and it's because of that default rate. People aren't able to repay those loans. Class of 2014 graduating from college right now is the most indebted ever. And I did cite some references up there, so you know I'm not just making this stuff up. Class of 2014, 70% of those graduates are leaving with debt. So it takes a lot of money to go to college these days. And the thing of it is, I think if you flip to the next slide, there's a huge advantage in where I'd be looking to leverage my skills, especially, you know, obviously there's some kids that need to go to college and should go to college, but there's probably a whole nother middle section there of people that are good with their hands, like to work with stuff, technically competent. Man, that you go out and get a 2-year degree, you can do that with not a lot of money. In a lot of cases, you can get scholarships. Like right now, you know, we're supporting some students at Central Community College to get them through the CNC machining program. We got internships for them. They're going to come out of there with not a lot of debt, if any. And now they're coming into a company. Most companies these days have programs in place where if you want to go back to school and get your 4-year degree, they'll support that and pay for it. I did that with my MBA, and it was pretty nice to get a free education, and there's a huge value in that. That's something that nobody can ever take away from you. So there's a bright future for people that are interested in technology, interested in applications of it in a lot of places. You can get in on this at a pretty easy financial level. Go in and get a 2-year degree. And then if you want, you can convert that to a 4-year degree. If you decide to stay with that 2-year degree and work it, you know, there's people coming out right now out of tech schools with a 2-year degree that aren't that far away from what most people are making with a 4-year degree, and I'd say they're even probably crowding what engineers are making with a 4-year degree coming out of school. So that's a great opportunity to get into if you're coming right out of school, and even if you're looking to reskill. So that's kind of, like I said, just a quick recap. that's kind of my message today. This stuff is getting applied everywhere, technology wise. There's a great future in it. There's a lot of job opportunities out there. I know at Milford, they've got more openings than they can fill with graduates coming out of school. So all those people are getting some really good job opportunities there. If people have an interest in technology, there's a great path to get it, and to get it at a fairly reasonable rate with a good return on their investment for that education. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greg, and we'll answer some questions later.
All right, thanks, Dave. My name is Greg Jarecke. I'm the Human Resources Manager at the Case New Holland Industrial Plant in Grand Island, Nebraska, so not too far down the road here. You can go ahead. I'm just going to give you, this is again kind of a presentation for people that don't know much about us. I really want to save a lot of time for questions and answers at the end, because again, we want to make sure that we answer all those for you. So I won't waste much time on, I'll just hit some highlights on some things in case you don't know about our plant. But we'll skip the Nebraska facts and just get into the plant information a little bit. So I'll have you move forward a little bit for me there. Most of you know about Nebraska. There's a snapshot of our plant. Again, we've been open since 1965. I've been at the plant for, it'll be in October, 9 years. When I started there, we had about 737 employees. Now we have over 1,400. So we've been growing a little bit. We also just recently took over our logistics operation. So that was a core function that we didn't used to recruit for, but now we do. There's too much time, money, and effort put into the logistics operations to not be heavily involved in that too. So that's just a snapshot of that. We'll keep sliding forward. This is what we build in Grand Island from the Case side. We do build Case and New Holland products, ag products. We are the combines, which we have really 6 different styles out there with many different options. But the combine's got about 18,000 total pieces and parts on it. So again, as Dave mentioned, the technology that we need nowadays in our employees, regardless of what they're doing, is critically important. To even apply for an agency position, to even get your foot in the door at our plant, you have to have a minimum of a GED or high school diploma. We also look for 2 years of industrial manufacturing experience or a special skill or trade such as auto body, welding type experience. So again, those are the minimum requirements just to get an interview. And then again, but we do hire a number of people that started off as agency. We'll teach them skills. And again, but there's a lot of life skills that are in there as well that is critically important as we, again, want to recruit the best. The type of other products that we make besides combines is windrowers. On the Case IH side, on the New Holland side, they're called speed rowers, pivot tongues, and then we make the heads for the hay tools. We don't make the heads for the combines. Those are made at a sister plant for us. But again, if you want to know how we're doing, you usually watch the grain markets and corn and beans and all that good stuff. We've had a heck of a ride really the last 8 years. It's come down recently and stabilized, so we've had to kind of rebalance our workforce a little bit. So we're not recruiting on the hourly sides like we were previously, but we do have a few salaried positions that we're still recruiting for. And we just filled a weld engineer, a paint engineer, which is, again, technical skills that are critically important to us. A paint engineer, even though this stuff's going to go out into a field somewhere and get beat up a little bit for what the farmers pay for them, they expect automotive paint finishes, and they deserve it, and we're happy to paint it that way for them. And then as far as the weld engineer, again, we have very high number of welders. Assemblers are our main thing, but welders, again, critically important to us, from not only robotic weld, but a lot of resistance welding as well as MIG welding. So again, it's critically important that skill set is to us. Here's some of our New Holland products. Again, the yellow combines. We love our New Holland customers just as much as Case. By volume, we build about 75% red versus yellow. So that's why I'm wearing a red shirt today. But we, again, build some special products for them, such as the bell wagon, which is a unique, basically a hay cart for them where you can stack bales on them, and then it's got a hydraulic table on it where you can load and unload those. But so we'll keep moving forward here. We'll get through this, and this is really more on the logistics side, but we'll keep moving forward through this. We do build, you'll see a red combine, a yellow combine, different frame sizes going down the plant, all at the exact same time down the same line. We've run mixed model production. There's different work content in it. The average tack time that we're moving to right now is about 20 minutes per station. So that is a lot of work content for an individual to remember on a combine line. So again, if you think about automotive, their tack time is about 45 seconds to a minute. It's a lot harder in our industry and business. And so again, being able to remember, being able to, again, give them the tools to, again, give them visual aids to do their job, giving them fixtures, poka-yoking or mistake proofing things so that, again, these combines run on average somewhere around $400,000 plus without a head. So you can imagine what the farmers expect from us, and they deserve it. So we've got to make sure that every combine that we build are top-notch quality and really the best in the world. And we feel like we do that. But again, we can't do that without top-notch employees in every process that we have. Inventory is extremely expensive. If you ever have driven by our plant, you may see 100 combines in the backyard. They're all sold. We do not build anything that is not sold. So that's one huge advantage we have over automotive. They build them in hope. We get orders and then we build. So that's a better way to run the business, obviously, with the expenses we have built into them. And we've had a high water mark of building about 31 combines a day. And right now we're at about 24, but that's still a lot because when I started there we were building 14 a day. So we didn't have the hay tools line. So again, a lot of growth. We have to really do a lot of training with our employees on the quality requirements because every year there's model changes, things like that. Some of our core competencies, again, lasers. As Dave spoke to, we have a lot of lasers. A lot of them are Mazak. We've got CNC press brakes, a lot of Pullman press brakes. We got a lot of different robotic welding equipment, as well as, again, a high number of MIG and spot welding equipment. So you can see how we're set up there. Also, these are 3 different types of paint: electrodeposition, powder, and an index line. Again, the index line is a low cure, so where you got components such as gears, anything with bearings and things like that, you got to have lower heat to make sure we don't ruin those. So again, paint is critically important to us. Again, this is some how we move things around in our plant. We do a lot with world-class manufacturing, and hopefully you've all heard of at least lean concepts, maybe Toyota production. We've really taken it to a very high level with world-class manufacturing, trying to eliminate waste in every part of our operation. And because we really do ship all over the world, except for South America, every red combine that is out there in the world today comes from the Grand Island plant. We do have a plant in South America, 2 of them actually, that take care of South America because of their tariffs and government regulations. But otherwise, the rest of the world is really serviced by Grand Island plant, which is pretty amazing because the world's a big place. On the yellow side, it's really North America, Australia, and is where we service. Otherwise, there's some other plants in Europe that take care of a lot of the New Holland combines and plants. So again, a lot of people don't realize when they drive by the plant, they know it's a big place, but just how many we're really building a day and how many people we're servicing. So a lot with lean manufacturing. We talked about 18,000 component parts. We can keep moving through here. Some of the hourly statistics, and again, some of these have changed a little bit. We've really got about 150 salaried employees, and again, very picky on our selection process, and you can kind of see average years. We continue to grow the female number of females that work at the plant, and they do an excellent job for us as well. We'll keep moving. Some of our certifications, again, quality, environmental, energy, all part of our continuing to be a good steward of the environment and making sure our customers get the very best. That's our world manufacturing, class manufacturing pillars. The one that I help lead is people development and the training aspects of that. this is just a visual management. At any time on the line, at any moment, our person can see that that's the end time right now that they would get out is 2:36. They were building that day. They were on the 10th unit at 25. So a lot with tack times and visual management. These are stations that if there was a help call exists, it immediately pages a team leader or a supervisor to come give them assistance. So again, that's all part of our world-class manufacturing to continue to make sure that we basically track and monitor everything. We have a lot of customer drive-offs, literally hundreds a year, where they will come to the plant, watch their combine being built, not a combine, but their combine. And so they get to meet the operators that are building it for them, and then they'll drive it off the end of the line. So there's a lot of pressure on staying on time when they know months in advance of which day they're coming to drive their combine offline, as well as they're the ones that get to turn the key for the first time. So there's a lot of pressure to make sure it starts. So luckily in my 8.5 years, I think we've only really run into one issue, and we were able to resolve it by the end of the day. But it's a lot of pressure to, again, make sure you're doing it right. So very important to us. You can slip through these. Again, this just kind of shows our flow of, again, making sure we've got good logic on the way everything flows through our plant. And this is just getting them ready for a plant tour. Again, key things for us, and again, we'll save some time for questions, but attendance. You know, the best people in the world don't do us any good if we can't count on them to be there. And again, they need to get that ingrained in them early, because if you have basically 7 occurrences in a year, you won't be there anymore. And if you lose the job, you're never eligible to come back. So those are hard life lessons, but they might as well learn them early. So those are critical to us. Again, being able to get along well with others. You can't put 18,000 pieces and parts on a combine alone. So that teamwork, communication, ability to get along well with others is critically important to us. And again, the quality and the pride that they build in it. We've got 3rd generation people at our plant now, and we really have a great employee group. But we want them to really feel like it's an honor and a privilege to be there and be part of the family and the team, because it's an impressive place, and they're our most important component of those people. And again, anything we can do with these young people to help them develop. If down the road you ever want to get a tour of our facility, help out, because we have all sorts of different types of jobs available out there, you know, you can contact me and we can help set that up. So I'm gonna let Jack go now. Thanks.
I'm Jack Schreiner with Bruckman Rubber Company down in Hastings, and I did want to mention quickly, you know, that we appreciate you folks being here on a nice summer day. I don't think I've ever ran across a successful business person that doesn't have a story about a teacher that made a difference in their life. And so what you're doing is really important, and it's really appreciated. Our company is 53 years old. I've been there 37 of those, so I've been around for a while in the rubber industry. The rubber industry is a little bit unique. Rubber in itself is a pretty unique engineering material. So the processes are quite a bit different than you see in some other industries. And again, I also would welcome you anytime you would want to come down and tour or bring a group of students to tour. It's kind of interesting to see how it's done. We manufacture custom products. So it might be for the ag industry, for equipment, seals, all sorts of different things for industrial products. About probably 90% of our products are industrial. We do some, we have a few proprietary products for irrigation and for a product called Weed Seal for vegetation control. But the majority of what we make is a guy like these will come to us and say, hey, we need a seal for this or that, and we've got a drawing, or maybe they don't even have a drawing, they need help designing it. We help them establish what kind of materials would be required to utilize it. We could design the formulations in-house. We're pretty well-rounded there. We can do everything from building the tooling that's required. We have our own tool shop, to designing the formulas, to mixing the compounds, to molding them, all the deflashing and inspection criteria that's involved in it, and shipping. Our customers are we're really diverse, and it's probably one of the reasons we've been around for 53 years, is that we service almost every kind of industry you can imagine. The only one we don't get involved in is first-tier automotive. We do some second-tier automotive, but we've stayed away from that group. Other than that, we do a lot of stuff with like the ag equipment, and we do some stuff for Royal and just all kinds of products. Our molding itself is injection, compression, and transfer molding. We do a lot of rubber to metal bonding and rubber to plastic bonding, and we do quite a bit of die cutting. But like I mentioned, everything, with the exception of probably a few percent, is all custom tailored for a given product. The seal industry is becoming so quality oriented and technically driven, a lot by all the environmental issues. So often that seal is the prevention of having a major environmental problem. So the idea, we've got a lot of competition overseas, but there's a lot of places anymore, because of the environmental concerns, are afraid to buy a seal overseas, because two pieces of rubber can look exactly the same and only one of them's going to work. So you've got to have a very, very strong quality program in the rubber industry. We are ISO 9000 2008 certified for that, and we get audits all the time. We have customers come in and crawl around our place all the time looking for problems and trying to catch us doing something wrong. So they need to know that they're getting what they're supposed to be getting. Our tool shop primarily does tooling to support our operation, but we also do custom manufacturing for other companies as well. Our customer base is a lot like our product base. We try to not have any customer with over 10% of our business. We just soon run our own business and not have anybody else tell us how to run it. So we try to keep it pretty well balanced so that we have control of our own destiny. Our customers are all over the U.S. And we service many other different companies. It's always good to see the folks here from Department of Economic Development, because I hang out with them, it seems like, more than I do my family sometimes, because they get involved in a lot of neat stuff for us and help us develop new accounts, and I've been involved in some of the overseas trade missions, which really got me fired up and got me thinking about, well, maybe we could, a little company in the middle of Nebraska could maybe be doing some stuff overseas too. And it's really turned into a neat part of our business. We do a lot of stuff overseas. We have a lot of partnerships in Japan and China and India, and we're working on one right now in Italy. So those are all we are on a very flat world. I mean, as much as you'd like to say everything's going to be done here, everybody buys and deals with everybody anymore. So having employees, there's two things I always say I'm pissed off at myself about that I didn't do in school. And that was, one, take a second language, and two, learn to play an instrument. But that second language is really important in this world today. I really envy these kids that have that ability, because it gives them opportunities that the rest of us guys aren't going to get. So it's fun working with those international people. We probably have more international people come through our factory than we do anybody else. But part of it is because we've had the Department of Economic Development assisting us in getting these things done. There's no way that a company our size would hop in a plane and go to another country and all of a sudden say, we're going to do business here. You need that support that these programs offer, and it's really important that we get them. You know, the guys have all mentioned a little bit about the educational opportunities for kids. A lot of them coming out of the programs now in the high school level, with some of the push towards getting kids those skill levels. They can come out of there and get a pretty dang good job right from you folks. And then the next tier of them, there's going to be some of them that are going to go on to a 4-year and get a full engineering degree, and I'm hoping that a lot of you do think about that 2-year programs as well. there's an awful lot of kids that get lost in between there. And they can come out of there making a heck of a lot of money. I started out in a 2-year program as well, and then my employer paid for my education to get my 4-year degree from that. And so there's I think somebody else mentioned here, there's a lot of companies that do pay for education. We're included in that group. So it gives the kids a heck of a shot at getting a good occupation and a good way to make a living. You know, manufacturing is so exciting. I've been, like I said, I've been there 37 years, and I can't believe some days I get paid doing what I do. You know, I mean, what some people call work, I'm having a blast. So the manufacturing fields are so fast-moving and technically driven that it gives kids a real neat opportunity. So that, I'm done. You got to be careful about it. There's no question. We were just having a discussion at Hastings Area Manufacturers Association. Every year we try to do some factory tours, and now we're going to reach out to some of the other cities around too and see if manufacturers want to open up their place for tours for teachers, for students, and for others here, because a lot of us are buying stuff from other states or overseas because we don't know that capability exists right in our own backyard. So we're trying to educate people. But in that discussion was the idea of, okay, how do you protect things? Okay, I think each individual company has to deal with that a little different. Some people say no photography. You can't. I've been in a lot of places that took my cell phone from me before I ever walked in the door. And you can pick what areas you can show people. You know, you have to use some common sense. We used to, in our industry, typically has been very secretive, and you didn't even let people in your door. We changed that a few years ago because we wanted to start partnering with people. We wanted to build relationships with our customers, and it's pretty hard to treat somebody like a damn thief and then tell them that you want them to be your friend. So we let people in our facility and not treat them like they're a thief. We're going to be a little careful about it, but I think it's important to be open. We just had a rubber manufacturer last week from Italy that was very surprised that we were quite as open as we were, but we're trying to build a relationship in Europe, and we need support over there. We're not doing much in Europe right now. So we think although you have to be careful, there's a little bit of risk, but we think that the benefits outweigh that.
Ours is almost all inches. It's almost all standard units. Yeah, very little metric.
Yeah, we're probably 75% metric anymore, 25% standard. So yeah, it's important to be able to do both.
We're probably just the opposite. About 75% of it's just plain old math like we grew up in. But yeah, it's funny because we've heard since the 70s we were going to be metric by now. It just hasn't happened yet.
We use SolidWorks and CATIA.
That's what I consider.
SolidWorks is a great fundamental program. CATIA is a lot more powerful, but SolidWorks does a lot.
We can barely hear you, sir. I'm sorry.
We use SolidWorks and CATIA. SolidWorks is a great program, does a lot, and CATIA's got a little more horsepower to it, and it combines a lot more of the manufacturing and quality functions. So.
Yeah, we use a lot of SolidWorks as well, and it seems like that's a good program because a lot of the programs have a lot of similarities, so it seems like they can cross over. And even the old AutoCAD background is still a very good foundation for many of the programs. Yep.
We do AutoCAD and SolidWorks also.
Our internet connection in Minden is not sufficiently stable for us to be operating in the cloud.
Okay.
It's trending that way, and we probably would be looking at that if we can get an internet connection to support it.
You shook your head yes. What part of your, give me some examples.
Yeah, the main area that we've really, and on a limited basis, but it's really the logistics area. We have so much communication that we need, and information, to be honest with you, between your shop planners and your material schedulers and your shop supervisors that needs to be able to flow so easily, and there's just so much there. And again, we got to be able to track that machine, not only from the way we build it, but even years and years afterwards in case there was ever an issue. So that's really where we're most heavily integrated into that network right now. Right now it is pretty controlled, and even who has access and visibility into it is because it's really the first endeavor we've really taken with it. So until we really get more comfortable, because again, we do have to be aware there's competition and other things out there, so we have to, but that's it. So far with what we've done and integrated and piloted in that area, it's worked well, but pretty limited so far.
We're currently not putting anything on the cloud. We did have a company come in last week to start brainwashing me a little bit and getting me feeling more comfortable with some of these things. You know, the technology is changing so quickly, and they all say everything's secure, don't worry about it, and then the next thing you read is somebody got a hell of a mess on their hands. So it takes me a while to get that comfort zone.
And to just talk about that for just a minute, we looked at a couple different options. A couple years ago when we first started trying to go this way, we didn't find anything that would support what we were trying to do, so we actually started down a path of a custom solution. Since then, and just recently, we found a vendor through the same company that does CATIA and SolidWorks that actually has a paperless shop floor solution out of the box. And have you guys looked at that at all? Delmia has one. Anyway, it'll end up landing on a tablet in front of the operator, but it's completely interactive with video, work instructions, digital records of who the operator was that did the work, taking measurements, inputting data, and doing all those kinds of things, and then uploading it to our system to be able to track all that stuff. And it actually is not as crazy. I mean, it's something that's a very real, very usable technology and very affordable even for a company as small as ours.
What is that?
Delmia, it's a Delmia Shop Floor Solutions or something like that is the package, but Delmia is a sub group of Dassault Systems, which also does SolidWorks. Yeah, we hire a lot of people that don't have an advanced degree right out of high school. Yeah, and with the right person, the right opportunity, sponsorship is something that we'd look at too. We haven't been able to develop that in our community yet to be able to support that, but it is something we've talked about and we'd be interested in doing.
Yeah, for us, as far as straight out of high school, with the requirements of 2 years of industrial manufacturing background or a special skill or trade, some of them come out with welding, with some pretty strong welding skills out of high school, and even if the bigger schools may even have some paint things. So a lot of those people would potentially have to start as an agency, but if they prove themselves over a 90-day period, because we do 45 90-day reviews, then they'd be eligible for conversion into full-time. So, and really 3 months is pretty short timeline, if, you know, for that type of situation. But otherwise, we really, normally what we do is, again, that 2 years of manufacturing experience, often they're coming from a different plan or location and trying to get on with us. So, and as far as sponsorship, we do like internships and those type of things, but usually they're either going for a 2-year associate's degree or they're going for a college 4-year degree, not necessarily straight out of high school. We've done any sponsorships yet.
And we have not done any of those through the high school level, because most of the people with their high school level are probably entering our workforce as a laborer and not as a professional. So if once they get some education, and as long as that education points towards their career, we'll pay for that.
So you would hire them as a laborer?
Right.
Possibly right now.
Yeah, and we do the Nebraska internship program as well. That's been, it's a good way to introduce somebody to your company and find you can learn a little bit about them and they can learn a little bit about you, and and hire them if you want to keep them there.
Yeah, our turnover rate, to be honest with you, is about 3%. We are what we consider a premier employer in the area because of wages and benefits. So our turnover is low, but the number one reason we do lose them is attendance. Somebody just can't, unfortunately, make the attendance policy work for them, and we're probably not going to change it anytime soon. But the other thing that I think, and again, we don't have it too often, but again, the being able to work well with others, if they honestly just, we really don't have any independent jobs where somebody's like, leave me alone, I just let me do my thing. We don't really have any of those type of jobs. And so the other thing that'll get them in trouble is if they really just can't be a team player, it will probably eventually have them search for employment elsewhere, because it's just so critical.
It's a lot of that playground stuff that you deal with when they're younger. I mean, he talked about me and did that, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Nobody really verified or spreading rumors. I mean, it's all that little stuff that seems to re-manifest itself when they get a job like that. And I just echo what Greg says. I mean, it's showing up and getting along with people will get you a long ways.
The most frustrating part of being an employer is dealing with that crap. I mean, it really is. It just drives you nuts, you know, the childish crap that people bring in, and that idea of you hire them and you really expect me to be there every day and on time, you know, like that's some sort of surprise. And you know, you just, so anytime you guys ever want manufacturers or other business people talking to your classes, because sometimes that needs to be beat in by somebody new. But it really, because a lot of it isn't happening at home, folks. It just isn't. You guys' job has gotten so much tougher than it was when we were growing up, and you're expected to play a lot of roles that didn't used to have to play. And so it's hard to get across to the kids some of these things that they need to do, but that's what we're here for and part of our job as Manufacturing Council.
I think that's all the time we have. Let's give our panelists a round of applause.